Only 10 are in the class. Types of mechanisms which are used for transferring the information from thread to thread or process to process. Some of them has already been discussed in the last class. So the pipes, memory map technologies, all those things, message queue, mailbox, and signaling techniques. So shared memory and message passing techniques are over. So we were here with the remote procedure call and sockets. So remote procedure call is also called as RPC. This RPC method is used for communicating between the process from one process to other process. If you want to communicate, it will be this RPC will be helpful in the communication process. So suppose if the process which is running parallelly, it can communicate through RPC, and if the process is running on one system and if the process is running on other system, even in such cases also the process communication can takes place by using this RPC. Just a second, I'll write it here. So suppose if you have a processor 1 and first yeah, let me take it as CPU 1 and you have CPU 2 here, and in that you have process 1, in this you have process 2, and I want to send data from this process 1 to process 2. Okay, and I want to mm, means formulate or execute and do certain operations on the data which has been sent from the process 1, and I need to revert back the execution again to process 1. So it is nothing but the process is communicating some data to process 2, and meanwhile after processing, the process 2 will give the status of the data to process 1. So here the process will communicate between the things which is present on different CPU. Even in these cases also this RPC will come into picture. Using this remote procedure call, we can transfer the information from one process to the other process, and this is also called as RMI, that is remote method invocation, or it is remote invocation. It can be both the things. Okay, so if or else yeah, this is if inside the same CPU, if I have one process and if I have one more process, the data communication between these two processes can also be taken care by this RPC itself. Okay, so RPC can take care the communication of data between the process which is running on a different system or different CPU, and which is running on a same CPU but two different processes, and it is also called as remote invocation or remote method invocation. So they can ask you like write a short note on RPC, or they can ask you to write a short note on RMI, all these things. So RPC is mainly used in distributed application. Distributed applications ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು ಇಲ್ಲ, ಒಂದೇ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಆಯ್ತಾ, ಸಾರಿ ಒಂದು ಅಪ್ಲಿಕೇಶನ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. You have some 2 to 3 systems which is working for the same application. Okay, so suppose all these things will be working together for certain operation of certain application, then it is said to be distributed application. So this can be the main processor. This can give the instructions to the other next processors which are connected to those things. So it is nothing but I'm considering this as the client and this as the server. So the communication between the client and the server, which is working for a single application, is said to be a distributed application which will be working as a client server application. Here, just a second, I'll erase this and I'll rewrite it. Okay. So with RPC, it is possible to communicate over heterogeneous network. So I had already told you whenever you have process which is running on different CPU, you can communicate the data between the processors. In the same way, if in case of heterogeneous network, in the sense whatever the two CPUs which you are considering, one as a client and the other one as a server, those two CPUs can work in a different operating systems. So whenever there is communication taking place between the two two points which is working as a client and server, or two CPUs which is working for different operating system, even after different operating system working, if the communication is taking place, it is said to be the communication across a heterogeneous network. Okay, the CPU which invokes the communication process is said to be the server. The CPU which receives the information or which initiates a request is said to be a client. Okay, so this is about RPC, means how the information will be passed. So see here I am telling you, within the same CPU, means within one CPU, I can have two different processes which is running. So I can use this RPC here for transferring the information between process 1 and process 2. This is process running on the same CPU. Here you have one more process which is running on different CPU, and the operating system of this, and if this operating system of this CPU is different, then it is said to be a heterogeneous network. Okay, if it is a same operating system, then it is said to be a homogeneous network. So the process which is present in one CPU wants to send the data to the other process which is running on some other CPU, or vice versa. Then you can use this RPC even this manner also. So the RPC can be used, the remote procedure call can be used for transferring the information between the process which is present within the same CPU, or which is present on different CPU, and it can be used for transferring the information with respect to the CPU which is supporting different operating system there, with respect to individual CPUs. So if you have different operating system, there should be some interface between those CPUs in order to transfer the information. So that is this invocation interfaces. It is possible to implement the RPC communication with different invocation interfaces. So one such invocation interface is interface definition language. I think you have learned about IDE tool, right? Integrated development environment. So this is different from that. Think don't mix this IDE with IDL. IDE is different. IDE is nothing but it is a platform where you'll be having all the things: simulator irutte, editor irutte, compiler, debugger, everything will be there. Means this is just a platform to run your language or to run your program there. But in order to communicate from one process to other process in a heterogeneous network, we need an interface unit that is called as IDL, interface definition language, defines the interfaces for RPC. So we have one such IDL from a Microsoft company which is used in Microsoft platform. So Microsoft interface definition language is an ideal implementation for the Microsoft of all Microsoft platforms. So next, this communication can be in terms of synchronous and asynchronous. So I'll tell you what is the difference between synchronous and asynchronous. So let me assume you have two different processes. Okay, process 1 and process 2. So suppose if the process 1 request a data from process 2. Okay, if I want to send some data from process 2 to process 1, so first what it will do, this process will send a request to process 1 will send a request to process 2 asking for the data. This process 2 will accept the request, and through RPC it will send that information to process 1. So until it gets the information from process 1, the whatever the execution of this process 1 will be stopped, it will be blocked there. Okay, so it will be until you get the response, the operation of the process 1 is blocked. Once it is received, it completes its execution and moves on to the next operation. So this type of operation is said to be, now this type of communication is said to be synchronous communication. Okay, it is the process which calls the RPC, which calls through the RPC, and it is blocked until it receives a response back from the other process. ಈಗಿಲ್ಲ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಹೇಳ್ದೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ, ಈಗ ಪ್ರಾಸೆಸ್ ಒನ್ನು ಪ್ರಾಸೆಸ್ ಟೂಗೆ ರಿಕ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ, ಈ ಡೇಟಾ ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಕೇಳಿದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ಇದು ಕಳಿಸುತ್ತೆ. ಇದು ಪ್ರಾಸೆಸ್ ಟೂ ಇಂದ ಪ್ರಾಸೆಸ್ ಒನ್ ತನಕ ಕಳಿಸೋ ತನಕ ಅಂಟಿಲ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಅನ್ಲೆಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಸೆಂಡ್ಸ್ ದ ಡೇಟಾ, until that the operation of the process 1 is blocked. Once the information you are getting from process 2, once you are getting back a response, the execution of the process 1 will be started. So this is about synchronous communication. So similarly you have asynchronous communication or asynchronous RPC, where just a second, I'll erase this and I'll explain you. Similarly, we'll be considering two more process. You have process 1 and you have process 2. So suppose process 1 is requesting some information from process 2. So and process 2 will take some time to accept the request and to send the data. Meanwhile, before means until it is not that until and unless it receives the data from process 2, it is not, it is starting its execution. It gives the request from process 1 to process 2. Parallelly, it will be executing the rest of the process here. So it is not that once it gives the request or it once if the process is invoked, it doesn't mean that the process execution is blocked. So until and unless some external, the operating system should stop the process, only that is the option that we have left out. But using this RPC, we cannot stop the execution of the process in case of this asynchronous RPC uh, communication. So this process of transferring the information between the process will be taken care by the functions. So we use functions for transferring the information between the process here. So suppose one more thing. So suppose if I have process 1 and if I have process 2, the process 2 should send only the data to here. It should not access any of the data which is present in the process 1. If suppose another ಒಂದು ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್, ಈಗ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಕಂಪ್ಯೂಟರಲ್ಲೇ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಲ್ಯಾಪ್ಟಾಪಲ್ಲಾದರೂ ಸರಿ ಎಲ್ಲಾದರೂ ಸರಿ ಎರಡು ಲಾಗಿನ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಒಂದು ಅಡ್ಮಿನ್ ಲಾಗಿನ್, ನೀವು ಕಾಲೇಜಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ಒಂದು ಅಡ್ಮಿನ್ ಲಾಗಿನ್ ಅಂತ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ ಲಾಗಿನ್ ಅಂತ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ ಲಾಗಿನ್, ಇಫ್ ಯು ಆರ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಥ್ರೂ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ ಲಾಗಿನ್, ಯು ವೋಂಟ್ ಬಿ ಹ್ಯಾವಿಂಗ್ ದ ಆಲ್ ದ what necessary things, means you cannot go and do whatever you want anywhere in the system if you are under student login. If you want, you can you cannot access USB port, you cannot access or you cannot download anything, or you cannot copy anything into your pen drive, all those things. These things, these restrictions will be there with respect to student access, whereas these restrictions will not be there in admin access, right? So likewise, in the same way, okay, there are some authentication mechanisms which are provided by this RPC in order to protect the information or protect the system against the vulnerabilities. So here the things is that along with the communication process, it also gives some authentication mechanisms. So authentication will be between the two process where the communication is taking place. As you know, when the communication is taking place, you'll be having one which is acting as a client, the other one which is acting as a server. So suppose if the information is transferred from this process to this process, so if this is 1 and this is 2, from process 2 in the process 1 ಗೆ ಏನಾದರೂ ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಕೇಟ್ ಆಗ್ತಿದೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಇದನ್ನ ಸರ್ವರ್ ಅಂತ ತಗೋತೀವಿ, ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ದಿಸ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ಗಿವಿಂಗ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ and this is the accepting point. So this will be considered as a client. So suppose ಈಗ ಏನಾದರೂ ಇಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಪ್ರಾಸೆಸ್ 1 ಇಂದ ಪ್ರಾಸೆಸ್ 2ಗೆ ಏನಾದರೂ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಫರ್ ಆಗ್ತಿದೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಇದನ್ನ ಸರ್ವರ್ ಅಂತ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, ಇದನ್ನ ಕ್ಲೈಂಟ್ ಅಂತ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ಈಗ ಸಪೋಸ್ ಏನೇ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್, ವಾಟ್ ಎವರ್ ಮೈಟ್ ಬಿ ದ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್, ಇಟ್ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಬಿ ಫ್ರಮ್ ಪ್ರಾಸೆಸ್ 1 to 2 or process 2 to 1. This communication will be carried out with the authentication process. So how the authentication process, that there are different authentication mechanisms by using IDs. So there will be different IDs for each and every process. So using those IDs, we can tell the system that only these are the resources, or this is the only area where your process can communicate, or you can change the information, or you can use cryptographic process, which is public key cryptography, like data encryption standard algorithm. And the illinda illige, if this is the server, this will send a key to the client such that the communication channel should take place. So this client will verify whether the given key is correct or not, whether the communication channel can be taken place between this client and the server. If it is correct, then only the RPC channel will be established between the server as well as the client. So if the authentication is not possible, then there won't be any transferring of information between these two. So suppose without authentication, if any of the client want to access the access the information with respect to the process which is present in the server, then there will be security risk that will be arised, because there may be chances of duplication of the information, or deletion of the information, or changing the information, anything that is possible. So in order to overcome that, whenever there is a communication through RPC, we'll be going to do this authentication mechanism between the client as well as the server. So as you know, usually the information which is present between both the things will be in terms of sockets. The information will be communicated through RPC in terms of sockets. So how it will, as I told you here, you have a client and you have a server here. If the server wants to send the data or information to the client, then that will be sent through the port itself. Okay, so first the port number should be assigned for both the sockets. So from here, whatever the information that you are sending, the port should be assigned with its own address, with a client address for this port, with a server address for this port. And the client should be aware with respect to the port address of the server, and the server should be aware with respect to the port address of the client. How many ever the ports you have, those many unique address will be assigned for all the client as well as the server system. So in order to start the communication, so first the client should ask for a request to the server to send the information through the port. So now the server will see whether the information for the processor or the client which it is asking, if it is obtained from a genuine port. If it is genuine, then whatever this server is there, it will accept the request and it will send the number or the information through this specified port, through this RPC network, to the client port. So upon receiving the information at the client, means after authentication only the information will be transferred. So once the data is received from the server to the client, the proper communication through this RPC will be taken place without changing any data through the RPC. Means some other person cannot come and change, as the whatever the link or whatever the protocol which has been formed for transferring the information between client and server is genuine and it is authenticated as well. So this is about RPC. So just on a brief note, I need to explain about all the different types of communication paths that are used for communicating between the task or thread or the process. So first one, we have seen the shared memory. Whenever you have more than one process, so a block of memory will be assigned where both the process can have access to the shared memory. So pipe is also a shared memory used by the process for communication, and this pipe can be unidirectional or it can be a bidirectional. Next we have memory mapped objects. So these are the memory mapped objects is nothing but the complete memory will be shared in terms of blocks of memory which can be accessed by the process simultaneously. So message pass he in case of memory, the complete block of the memory is accessible by both the process which is sharing. But in case of message passing, whatever the information that you are passing through the message, only that part of the information will be shared between both the process. So this is more safe than the memory mapped object task communication. So whatever the messages that you want to pass will be stored in the message queue. Next, we have the last one, RPC, that is remote procedure call, and the sockets. So it is used to transfer the information between the process which are present in the same CPU or which is present on the different CPU or which are present on the different CPU which is operating on different operating systems. So we will follow the authentication process as well between the client and the server when you are transferring the information through the port sockets. ಸೊ ಟಾಸ್ಕ್ ಸಿಂಕ್ರನೈಸೇಷನ್. ಸೊ ಸಪೋಸ್ ನಮಗೆ ಈ ಪ್ರಾಸೆಸ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಟಾಸ್ಕ್ ನಡೀತಾ ಇದೆ, ಈ ಪ್ರಾಸೆಸ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಟಾಸ್ಕ್ ನಡೀತಾ ಇದೆ, ಎರಡಕ್ಕೂ ಸೇಮ್ ರಿಸೋರ್ಸ್ ಬೇಕು ಆಯಿತಾ. ಸೊ ಸಪೋಸ್ ನಾನೇನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ, ಫಾರ್ ಜನರಲ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ವಿಚ್ ಐ ವಾಂಟ್ ಟು ಟೆಲ್, ಹಿಯರ್ ಐ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಒನ್ ಕಂಪ್ಯೂಟರ್ and here I have one more computer. Both the computers are connected to the same printer. Okay, this is just a general example I'm giving to make you people to understand. So suppose if I'm giving some printing option from here and printing option from here also simultaneously, how this particular resource will be synchronized effectively to get the work done of both the computers. So suppose if the printer is allocated for this CPU, then it will do the work of this. If it is allocated for this, then it will do the work of this. But this resource is allocated for both the computers. So in such case, what it will do, it will execute one request and it will make the other particular CPU to wait. So that can be taken place, or else what will happen, that we need to just check out. So how effectively all the task synchronization will be taking place for its execution. So that is about task synchronization. So whenever you have in a multitasking environment, we'll be having multiple processes which will be executing at the same time and it will be sharing all the resources at the same time. So see here, as I told you, here you have one process which is executing on this computer and you have one process which is executing on this computer, and you have a single resource where multi processes are executing and using this particular resource effectively. So multiple process in a multitasking environment will be using the system, how efficiently it will be utilizing the system resources. So the process will communicate with respect to each other through different IPC mechanisms. IPC is inter-process communication mechanisms. All those things we have seen, pipe, shared memory, all those things, message passing, all those things we have seen, right? So the inter-process communication or inter-task communication will be taking place by all those mechanisms. So suppose if you have a situation where two processors are trying to access the hardware of the system at the same time. So then what will happen? So suppose the same thing. So let me explain you with another example here. So imagine a situation where two processes try to access the display hardware connected to a system, or two processes trying to access a shared memory area. When one process tries to write the memory, write to the memory location, and the other one starts reading. So with respect to this, I'll explain it here with respect to this. The inter-process communication, as I told you, it is possible in these ways, right? Shared memory, pipe, message passing, message queue, RPC, memory mapped objects. So suppose we'll see with the first one. So shared memory. So suppose if I have a memory here, okay. So these are the different memory locations which I have. Here I have a program 1, which I'm considering it as process 1. And here I have one more program 2, which I'm considering it as process 2. Okay. So now what I'm doing is here I have some variables A, B, C. All these variables ABC can be accessed by program 1 and program 2 as it lies in the shared memory area. So suppose if I'm making this value, this program 1 is accessing A and I got the value as 5. Some random value I'm taking, I got the value as 5. Then I'm accessing B and I'm getting the value as 3. Okay, so this C is nothing but which is depending on some operation. It can be multiplication of A and B, something like that if you're taking, if you're considering for C operation. So if program 1 is accessing 5 and 3, so C will be equal to 5 into 3, 15. So C will be equal to 15 according to program 1. So while the program 1 is using the shared memory, the program 2 can also use the shared memory. So now what it will do before executing the value of C by program 1, this program 2 can change the value if there are if it change the value of B to 4. So now at before execution of C, the value of B has been changed. Now C will be equal to 5 into 4, but the actual operation which it has to perform was 5 into 3 by program 1. But due to this, the value of the variable has been changed by the program 1. Now C will be performing the operation 5 into 4. So this leads, what are the things that it leads to? It leads to an unexpected execution of the program. The results can be different, and even the result cannot be acceptable as well. As we are using the shared memory by both the process, these are the difficulties which we are facing. So this would result in an unexpected result. This can be solved by making each process aware of accessing a shared memory part either directly or indirectly. So these are the issues which we will be just one issue. This is one issue and this is one issue which we are considering when more than one task or multiple process are executing at the same time. So how to overcome this? So how to overcome these issues when more than one process or task or thread is executing at the same time? We need to make a proper understanding or proper synchronization between the process which are executing at the same time in order to overcome such kind of scenarios. So we have this is the first scenario and this is the second scenario. In order to overcome that, whichever the process that it is running parallelly or using the same shared memory or same resources, we need to use certain synchronization techniques, or we need to overcome that by some process, by some techniques here. So various tasks, communication or synchronization issues may arise in this multitask environment. So before overcoming that, we'll see how the information can be, means what are the different, the same thing which I had told you here, accessing a variable and accessing the resource. The same thing is explained with respect to this racing and a deadlock condition. So these are the two important questions they'll ask you in the exam. Write a brief note about the racing and deadlock condition, or what are the different task synchronization issues. So they can ask you in either the ways. So first we'll see the racing condition. So it is a situation in which multiple processes compete each other to access and manipulate the shared data concurrently. So in the race around condition, the final value of the shared data depends on the process which acted on the data finally. The same thing which I had explained you here. So ಇಲ್ಲಿ process 1 A B change ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. Before executing C by the process 1, the process B change the value of B here such that whatever the operation that it is taking care in the next taking place in the next execution, that is 5 into 4 will be happening here. So it is nothing but the same. So that condition is called as a racing condition. So suppose this is process A and process B. So at this point, after using this instruction, means move the value uh, from a pointer which is of size 32 bit to a 32 bit register. So after moving the value, what I am doing, I am calling a process through either anything, message passing ಆದ್ರೆ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, pipe ಆದ್ರೂ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, message sharing, RPC, through any of those things I'm communicating with the other process. Where here what I'm doing is I'm moving some other data through to this particular, and I'm adding that data with 1, and I'm storing the data into some other location. After that I'll come back to here. Again the value of this register will be the content here, that I am adding it with 1 and I'm storing the data here. So see here, according to this, so suppose if this is the location 20, okay, just an example I'm telling, if this is the location 20h and this is the register, so from 20h minus 4 pointer, right? So in each and every location I can store 8-bit data. So 32-bit in the sense 8 fours are 32. So 17, 18, 19, 20. So from 17 to 20, whatever the data I have, that I'll be storing. This double word I'll be storing in the register EAX. So suppose in 17, 18, 19, 20. So if this is the first word, so I'm storing the value as 0, 1, AF, 0, 6, 32. So suppose if this is the value which I'm storing here. So this value starting, this will be the LSB part and this will be the MSB part. So it will be stored in the EAX register. So EAX will be having 3206, 32, starting from MSB, I'm writing here the content of EAX 3206 AF01. Okay, this content which is stored in this memory location I got into this register. So after this the context switching will be done. Next, again a double word pointer which is stored from, again that will be loaded to EAX. Some other, this was the EAX value with respect to process A. So again similarly, again you have some 32-bit value. Okay, so let me take it as A, B, C, D, 0, 0, 0, 0. Let this random value I'm considering. So I'm adding that value to 1. So this, if I'm adding it 1, this will become 0, 1. And this I'm storing into that register. So this is what it has happened. So after that it will come back to here. So the content of EAX is this now. But this should be the content of EAX according to this process. But the content of EAX is overwritten by the process B, and this particular condition is called as racing or race around condition. So this happens when both the processes are sharing the same memory. But according to this race around condition, whichever the data which has been manipulated at last, that value should be considered by the process. But if you do it accordingly, whatever the actual operation or the actual location which has to be used by the process, that cannot be taking care here. So this is about this race around condition or race condition or racing condition. So next you have deadlock. So what do you mean by deadlock? So deadlock is a situation where you have more than one process or a multi-process utilizing the same resource. So suppose ಇದು process 1 ಅಂತ ತಗೋತೀನಿ, ಆಯ್ತಾ, ಇದು process 2 ಅಂತ ತಗೋತೀನಿ, 3, 4. All the process has requested for the same resource. ಈ ಪ್ರಾಸೆಸ್ಸು ಇದೇ ರಿಸೋರ್ಸ್ ಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನತ್ತೆ, ಇದು ಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನತ್ತೆ, ಇದು ಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನತ್ತೆ, ಇದು ಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನತ್ತೆ. Means all the process are requesting the resource simultaneously. In such a case, we can means the resource, as there is only one resource, this cannot be allocated for this cannot be allocated, means all the things are uh, requested for the resource at the same time. So this situation is called as a deadlock situation. So a race condition produces incorrect result. So this racing condition produces incorrect result, as we have seen. So but whereas this deadlock condition creates a situation where none of the process will be able to do any process in their execution, resulting in a set of deadlocked process. ಈಗ ನಾನು ಈ ರಿಸೋರ್ಸ್ನ ಇದಕ್ಕೂ ಕೊಡಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ, ಇದಕ್ಕೂ ಕೊಡಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ, ಇದಕ್ಕೂ ಕೊಡಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ, ಇದಕ್ಕೂ ಕೊಡಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ, ಯಾವುದಕ್ಕೂ ಕೊಡಕ್ಕಾಗಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಯಾವ ಪ್ರಾಸೆಸ್ಸು ಮುಂದೆ ಎಕ್ಸಿಕ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ ಹೋಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಸಿಚುವೇಶನ್ ಇಸ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಆಸ್ ಅ ಡೆಡ್ಲಾಕ್ ಸಿಚುವೇಶನ್. ಸೊ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಸಿಮಿಲರ್ ಟು ದ ಟ್ರಾಫಿಕ್ ಜಾಮ್ in a junction of four roads as illustrated in the figure. ಸೊ ಇದು ಹೆಂಗಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ಸೊ ಸಪೋಸ್ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ 4 ಪ್ರಾಸೆಸ್ ತಗೊಂಡಿದೀವಲ್ಲ, ಅದರ ಬದಲಿಗೆ 2 ಪ್ರಾಸೆಸ್ ಇಂದ ಐ ಆಮ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೈನಿಂಗ್ ಯು ದ ಆಪರೇಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಎ deadlock. The same thing has been written here, but I will explain you here. So suppose if I have process A and process B, I have two resources, resource X and resource Y. So what happens is process A uses resource X and process B uses resource Y. So once the process A utilizes resource X to complete its operation, it should use resource Y if that is the scenario. Similarly, if process B is utilizing resource Y to complete its execution, it wants resource X. So what happens here? Process A will be holding resource X. It will be waiting for resource Y to be released by process B. Similarly, at the same time, process B, you will be using resource Y and it will be waiting for process A to release the resource X. So wherein the process A will not release resource X and process B will not release resource Y. These two resources will be used by the process, and it means it will be blocked by the process. So in such a case, even this process A execution cannot complete its operation, process B also cannot complete its operation. So this is called as a deadlock situation. None of the processes are ready to revoke their resources and wait for the execution of the another process. So both the process want to execute their program or their task first. So in such a case, this deadlock situation will be arised. So what are the different situations or different conditions where the deadlock can be appeared? So these are the 4 different situations which are called as Kaufman conditions. Okay, this is also an example. This is also an important question which has to be explained. So in exam, if they ask you to explain about deadlock condition or raising condition, or give a brief note about this task synchronization issues, you need to explain with respect to this raising condition, ಈ deadlock situation ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಬೇಕು, ಮತ್ತೆ ಅದು ಹೆಂಗೆ ಅಕ್ಕರ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಬೇಕು. These are the 4 different conditions accordingly to which occur. Next we have how to overcome that. So first we will see this deadlock occurrence. So first, mutual exclusion, hold and wait, no resource preemption or circular wait. So these are the 4 conditions favoring the deadlock situation. So the first one is mutual exclusion, the criteria that only one process can hold a resource at a time. Idralli this process has holded this resource, wherein this process needs the other resource which is blocked by the other process. It is nothing but that particular criteria should be overcome. So meaning the process should access the shared resource which mutual understanding or mutual exclusion. So typical example is accessing a hardware in an embedded system. So hold and wait, the condition in which a process holds a shared resources for certain time and controlling the shared access and waiting for the additional resources held by the process. So see here, it is utilizing this resource and it is waiting for resource. In that way, this resource X will also not be released. So that is this hold and wait. No resource preemption. In the same way, as it is waiting for this is not ready to leave this particular resource. This process A is not ready to leave this particular resource. So this is called as no resource preemption. Next, you have the last one, circular wait. Means if a particular process is waiting for a resource which is currently handling by the other process. So suppose if this is the resource which it is utilizing, meanwhile this has completed using this resource and it is waiting for this resource to be held. So until the time it has been released. So here I am explaining only with respect to process A and process B. Suppose if I process C, then this process C will be having one more resource where that particular resource, where the waiting time will be considered even for that particular resource as well. How many ever the process you have, those many resources will be held up, and it should be all the process should be waiting for one or the other resources in a circular pattern. So this is called a circular wait. All these examples, all these conditions can be explained with the single deadlock situation here. So this is about how a deadlock situation will be occurring. So next we'll see how to uh, handle the different deadlock situations in the next class. One second. So we'll complete this particular part. So deadlock handling, how to handle whenever a deadlock has been occurred. So there are certain conditions where the operating systems will neglect the deadlocks or it will ignore the deadlocks. So one such operating system is a Unix, which follows the principle that it will ignore the deadlock, assuming that all the systems are assuming that whatever the resources which are assigned to all the systems which are working on Unix operating system are considered as deadlock free. And if any deadlock occurs, it is in case of these particular systems, the cost of removing a deadlock is large compared to chances of happening a deadlock. So if the cost for removing a deadlock is higher, then they are not going to overcome the deadlock situation only. So in such cases, this jail ignore the deadlock. So this is one how to handle. If you cannot ignore, so what we need to do, we need to detect the deadlock and we need to recover the deadlock. So how we are going to detect? So suppose the same thing, if all this process which you have here, okay, wants the same particular resource as explained here. See here, it was asking for the same resource but everything was blocked. So what happens here, these processes, it should go back and it should wait for the resource. Means what happens in this situation, all the process will go back such that the deadlock situation can be overcome to certain level, but the resource is not allocated to any of the process. So it should go back, the process should go back to waiting stage instead of creating a deadlock situation here. Okay, so this is called as backup car technique. So it will go back and it should wait for the allocation of the resources. So each and every operating system will be having a resource graph, where this resource graph will be having the data of all the resource requests which are given by the process. So according to the operating system, whenever a deadlock situation has been occurred, then this particular resource graph will be analyzed and certain algorithms will make this particular resource to be allocated to the different processes such that all the process will be utilizing this particular resource to overcome from this deadlock situation or to recover from this deadlock situation. So that is about detect and we need to recover. So next we have avoid deadlocks. So before occurrence only, if you are avoiding the deadlock situation, then no need to face any of the consequences or waiting periods by the process. So careful allocation of all the resources when multitasking is taking place by the operating system should be done. So the operating system should take care about the allocation of resources when more than one process is running at the same time. So by taking care certain conditions or by allocating the resources in a neat and a clean way, we can avoid this deadlock situation. So next, prevent deadlocks. So prevent the deadlock condition by neglecting one of the four conditions or by considering any one of the four conditions which we have here. So these are the different four conditions what we have. The first one is releasing all the resources currently held by the process if a request is made by the process from a new resource, or else adding the resources which are released to the resource list, or else rescheduling the process for execution. Only when the process gets its resources, then only it can execute. So these are the four different conditions through which we can prevent the occurrence of a deadlock. So next you have, similar to deadlock condition, you have a live lock condition, which is almost similar to that, except that the process, instead of stopping its operation while it is waiting for the resource, the process execution will be taking place. It will be waiting, but the process execution will be taking place with respect to the next part. Whereas in a deadlock condition, once it is waiting for the resource, it won't go for execution of the next part of the process until and unless the current the current process execution is completed. So this is the live lock situation. This is similar to deadlock, but instead of waiting, it starts executing with the next part. So this is about uh, the live lock condition. So next you have something called as starvation. So starvation is nothing but whenever you have multi-process which are taking place, or multi-thread communication which is taking place, which is using the same set of resources. That means the process does not get the resources for execution of its program for a long time. In such case, the process will go to a wait state, and that wait state is called as the starvation. So in this wait state can be due to the main things. It can be due to the deadlock situation, or due to the scheduling policies which are given by the operating system, or scheduling the high priority threads first and giving the resources for the next thing, next resources which is of not such highest priority. So all these things will give rise to the waiting time, which is called as the starvation. So this is about the different deadlock situations. What do you mean by deadlock? All those things. Just a second, I'll download the attendance.